Do I really have to delete my subscribers post GDPR? The GDPR go-live date of the 25th of May has come and gone. In the last few weeks, businesses of all shapes and sizes have been hurriedly re-opting in their email lists. Now that the dust has started to settle, you could fear that GDPR is potentially a killer for small businesses, forcing businesses to write off their customer databases and subscriber lists. In the last few weeks, we've all been sent a myriad of re-permission emails. As a quick litmus test, I asked my co-workers how many re-opt-in emails did they actually click on to stay subscribed. The answer was staggeringly low. From a personal perspective, I received hundreds of re-permission emails, and I only clicked on 2 of them. One of these forwarded me to an overly complicated form, asking me every question imaginable, so I ducked out. On the other side of the spectrum, you've probably noticed some companies, especially big ones such as Amazon, Twitter, eBuyer, and some of the smaller players such as Lockfine restaurants have carried on mailing their pre-GDPR subscriber list. So how is that? This then raises the question why small businesses all over the country have pretty much gone into meltdown, writing off their customer lists, while a lot of the big players and many small ones have carried on as normal. The GDPR misconception. Large organisations would have likely employed the services of very expensive law firms to advise and assist with GDPR, and have happily carried on email marketing as a result. Small businesses, clubs and associations are not in the position to employ expensive law firms, often having to resort to hearsay and Google searches. This then raises the argument, do I really have to delete my subscribers post GDPR if they did not click on re-opt-in? After all, a lot of the big players such as eBuyer did not conduct noticeable re-permission campaigns. It could be considered the fault of the ICO. Prior to GDPR, small businesses suffered. There was certainly a lack of clear information about what needs to be done. There could be the suggestion that the ICO had a duty to better help small businesses and advise on GDPR compliance. Instead, most small businesses had to rely on hearsay on the internet or confusing legal documents published by the ICO. Do I really have to delete my subscribers post GDPR? As we touched upon, the suggestion is that perhaps this is not the case. Many large companies have not done so. Small companies can't afford to simply write off their customer lists for marketing. To address this, the best port of call is what the ICO is actually saying. On the 27th of April 2018, the Deputy Information Commissioner gave a great Q&A interview on BBC Radio 5. The Deputy Information Commissioner gave the following answer. Now, this was a question posed by a small business owner called Andy. He said, "Can I continue to email my clients after GDPR?" Now, the Deputy Information Commissioner gave the following response. If Andy already has an existing relationship with his clients and he is selling them goods or services that they have already purchased, then the law allows that relationship to continue. Andy can continue sending marketing information to those members of the public that he is serving. So, the ICO who are administering the law have made it clear that small companies do not need to simply write off their customer database for marketing purposes. As outlined, if your business has an existing relationship, then post-GDPR, you can still carry on that relationship. The consensus is that if you have already obtained consent, this could be through an existing relationship you have with your subscribers or via a pre-GDPR subscribe form, then you do not need to re-obtain consent. This argument was also supported by Field & Fisher, who are a prominent European law firm, outlining the following. Does GDPR mean that we have to get fresh consents from our entire marketing database? In many, in fact perhaps most cases, the answer is no. Can I carry on emailing a customer who did not click on resubscribe? In most cases, your customer database that you've taken care to build over the years, there's no need to simply write it off post-GDPR. The ICO, who enforced the law, and prominent law firm Field Fisher clearly say that you can continue existing relationships for marketing purposes. The Deputy Information Commissioner on BBC Radio 5 interview went on to clarify that businesses should use what they call reasonable expectations. If you have a long-term relationship with your subscribers, they have a reasonable expectation of receiving your newsletter. You are well within the new GDPR legislation to continue that relationship. Can I continue emailing users who are signed up on my website pre-GDPR? A subscriber list does not always just contain customers. A certain element may be users who completed a newsletter sign-up form on your website pre-GDPR. The speculation is that with GDPR, we need to re-permission these subscribers too. The simple answer again is no. GDPR is about relationships, and that does not mean we have to write off existing relationships. Tozer's reports that if you collected consent pre-GDPR, then you can continue to rely on that consent post-GDPR. This is clearly arguing the case that we do not need to re-permission previous subscribers. The source of fake news. It is clear that there is a certain element of confusion about what we can and can't do post-GDPR. As outlined by the ICO and other leading sources, most online hearsay is simply not the case. This then leads to the question, where did all this misinformation originate from? It is likely that it came from the EU itself. The Marketing Eye reports that the EU performed a U-turn with regards to reconsent and drastically relaxed the rules, meaning that most businesses don't actually need to reconsent their subscribers. In a recent discussion we had with the DMA, this U-turn performed by the EU is something that the DMA claimed to have achieved due to their lobbying. Living in a post-GDPR world. While GDPR speculation may have seemed a little daunting and all doom and gloom, leading sources have clearly demonstrated that this may not be the case. As touched upon here, GDPR allows us to continue existing relationships, in most cases without asking for reconsent. Many small businesses fell foul to misinformation and fear about what a post-GDPR world could look like. The lack of clear information for SMEs is something that the ICO are certainly guilty of. But we can be rest assured that in our post-GDPR world, this is not the case, that your lovingly created customer list does not need to be simply deleted. The ICO's reasonable expectations allow us to continue relationships, and small businesses can continue to talk to their customers. Okay, so here's a quick summary points. Pre-GDPR customer lists can still be used post-GDPR even if the customer did not click on resubscribe. The ICO define what is called reasonable expectations, allowing us to continue communicating with a subscriber if they are expecting our communications. Subscribers who completed a newsletter sign-up form pre-GDPR are still valid post-GDPR. There is no need to resubscribe. ICO outline existing relationships and say that these can be maintained. There is no requirement to re-opt in an existing relationship. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful, and be sure to check back next week for our more videos in the series.